seconds, trying to get loose. He'll fire. He knocks it down. Morrow slammed it home. Garland upstairs. Oh! Sexton inside. A thunderous dunk. And Allen blocked the shot at the rim.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. Support for this podcast and the following message comes from Zoom. 500,000 businesses connect using Zoom, a single platform for phone, chat, workspaces, events, apps, and video. Zoom enables real-time collaboration for teams around the globe. Zoom, how the world connects. And connecting with me now, live via Zoom, is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I almost forgot to get the little 2-box ready on the live stream, so you would have thrown to nobody. But
you know what? You're once again ducking me because let's let the listeners in on a little secret, because we were going to record yesterday after Darius Garland's career night, and you pushed this podcast back. You pushed it back with the specific agenda to calm me down so that I wasn't making outlandish claims and calling you out for some of your unfavorable comparisons in the past.
I think we've made enough DJ. I think we've made enough DJ Augustine jokes to know that I must hold my L for my worst case scenarios for Darius Garland. And first off, we pushed it.
Calm me down.
We pushed it out of respect for the road back, which everyone should check out, which was also debuting at the exact same time. A little bit of a scheduling snafu, and we wanted to respect our friends on the Cavs digital team because they are amazing. But no, it was, a ridiculous, I can't say it enough times game from Darius Garland. It was such a lousy game through 4 quarters, Justin. It was so frustrating. The Cavs came out in the first quarter. They were playing focused defense, just disciplined, and took a 10-point lead on the Pacers and were in complete control of the game. And then their range just shut off for 2 quarters. I thought they played absolutely atrocious basketball, especially on the defensive end of the floor. Just giving up back cuts, giving up easy buckets in transition. No one meeting any Pacers bigs more than 2 feet from the hoop. So they just got deep seal after deep seal after deep seal. And then, that's what star players do. On nights when you probably shouldn't win, your 2 star players in Darius and Evan kind of just closed the door on a Pacers team that couldn't hang from a talent perspective. And I just thought, Darius was just in total control. Do you know how good you got to be getting doubled 40 feet from the basket?
Yeah, you got to be pretty good. That's basically Steph Curry territory. And to put it into context, the previous season high for Garland was 33 points. He scored 31 in the second half, 21 of which coming in the fourth quarter, in which he played the entirety of it. And it was just one of those fantastic performances. I didn't get to watch the first 3 quarters live. I was out with the in-laws and made it home just in time. So maybe they turned it on because they knew I was there to keep them accountable, tuning in. But it was great to see, that it was such an important game where they really needed to come out and get a win to give them some more room in the standings. They found a way to do that. I saw the tweet Madison from the social team shared with me that someone was calling Garland Sleeve Nash. And now we have Sleeve Nash and Slim Duncan. I'm very, very here for this nickname combo.
Oh yeah, he was truly electric down the stretch for this team. I thought his playmaking was elite. He wasn't just hunting buckets. He was pretty regularly, making the right play. Boy, Jalen Smith needed a break. Because he just kept getting switched onto him over and over and over again.
Man, poor Jalen. Jalen and JR, 2 Smiths that sometimes forget the score in the game. That foul at the end of the fourth quarter was very much appreciated. I actually have a theory for this because I noticed in real time that the Pacers fouled exactly at the 2-minute mark. And I wonder if they thought maybe that happened at like 2:01 and that they had a foul to give. It was real. I don't know.
Interesting.
I noticed that at the time because I was trying to do the mental math of, does this need to occur at 1:59 for it to be in the bonus? Is the Cavs broadcast wrong? And apparently it can happen exactly at the 2-minute mark. So that was kind of an interesting thing that I noticed at real time. I couldn't believe that they fouled. And when he fouled, I was actually thinking back to that moment, thinking maybe the broadcast got it wrong, that they put bonus mistakenly and we're not going to be shooting free throws here. But that was something that stood out to me. But you're right. What was so impressive about Garland's night was it was a balance of being a floor general. It wasn't one of those nights where he's just going out to create for others or just looking for his own shots. He was taking what the defense was giving him throughout the night. And you compare that to Kyrie, who, when Kyrie had his career high in assists, 14 back in 2017, he had 14 points and 14 assists. Back in the day, like, Kyrie is probably a top 5 scorer all time in terms of just pure talent. When he would kind of go out and have those kind of high assist nights, oftentimes he was kind of making a point that I can go out there and I can create for others. It wasn't this type of performance where you have 41 points, 13 assists, taking advantage of everything the defense is giving you, and when the defense isn't giving you something, going out and creating a bucket. That's a completely unique thing. That is such a high level thing, and it's exciting because these are the types of performances that make you feel like no matter how people rank point guards in the NBA, Garland, if this is what he's building upon and this is what he is capable of doing, this is a talent that can go out there and be the best point guard in any given series if things are going his way. Like, he is that level of talent that he can at least hold his own against some of the best point guards in the league. And as much fun as people like to have with rankings and things like that, that is what's most important, is that you have an elite talent point guard and floor general that can get buckets for himself and create for others.
Yeah, and I remember we did this a lot during the Kyrie era, where we were like, okay, looking resume to resume, is Kyrie better than Steph? No, he's not. And and by every available metric, we pretty much know that's not the case. But can Kyrie be better in 4 out of
final stats?
Well, yeah. Can Kyrie be better in 4 out of 5 games than Steph? Yes, he right. and really, that's when we're talking about championship level players. That's really what we're looking for. Is can you hold your own? Can you win your matchup even against some of the best players in the league? And I think Darius is fast approaching that, just from the perspective of he's already getting so much better at problem solving. Like, they were throwing some legitimately big bodies at him, both in this game and the last one against Toronto. He's been navigating them with...
Indy's got great guard defenders. Like, between Brogdon and Haliburton, like, they have guys that can legitimately be disruptive out there.
Yeah, and so you just kind of look at, like, the ways he's being challenged and the way he's figuring things out. And he even had to figure it out a little bit in the fourth quarter. They were throwing those hard traps at him 40 feet from the basket, and for a minute, the offense stalled out, and then he was like, wait, no, I actually have to attack it. I can't actually just wait for them to trap me and find Evan, because the outlet's so far away that they're able to recover. It was like, no, I got to attack this off the dribble as they come at me, and I can trust my own processing at full speed better than they can react to me when they're already out of position. And he was able to generate good looks again for them down the stretch. And like, just his problem solving is getting really, really exciting.
It is, and this is a performance that potentially could have been a 50-point game if he got a damn call. We are continuing to see that. We are continuing.
He got 9 free throws in this one, brother.
No. A lot of those finishes at the basket should have been and ones, and a lot of those free throws came on intentional fouls there. So, you know what? I'm not giving credit to that, because what drives me nuts, and friend of the podcast and all-around good guy, Nekias Duncan, did a really good job about the art of drawing fouls, and there is an art to it. There is also the frustrating component of, it does seem like certain players have a reputation as being guys that should get fouls, that whether it's star calls or whatever you want to call it, that's a factor. It feels sometimes, and this is again my persecution complex making me sound like a loser, sometimes it feels like what market a player plays and determines what type of whistle they get. And then there's the other frustrating component of you're trying to tell guys to go out there and sell calls, understand the art of baiting a defender in and drawing a foul. But for someone like Garland, who experiences contact going to the rim all the time, to tell him, stop trying to make the shot. The fact that you're trying to make the shot is why you're not getting a call. And I know that you're not getting the call despite contact being there, but just go into the contact. Don't try to make the shot. Don't try to play honest basketball, and you might get rewarded with a call. That is so frustrating for me as a viewer. And I understand, once again, I'm aware in real time that I'm sounding like a big loser here, but this is one of my gripes that's really starting to get to me lately.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this night is not the night I'm going to complain. He did get to the line a decent amount. Yes, he got bumped, and there are some plays that should have been and ones that became transition buckets the other way because he got knocked over or fell over on the finish. Right. So I get it, but
it was those fourth quarter finishes that were driving me nuts. And luckily Mobley managed to finish one that he missed after getting hit to the ground. And my God, was Evan Mobley good? That was a performance from Mobley that really excites the hell out of me. Like the Toronto one was really good. 5 steals. Like him going out there and performing the way he did. We're basically at the point where we've already seen with Garland that with Sexton out, with Ricky out, with LeVert out, putting more on his shoulders, he has risen to the occasion every single time. His stats just go up. He is the living embodiment of the Flex Seal meme of, you know what, we're just slapping Garland on this problem and he's going to deliver. And obviously the Cavs are better with Allen and Mobley, but it's going to be really interesting to see if Mobley can do that, a little bit of that himself, where he takes on a bigger load, he shoulders more responsibility, goes out there and puts some of these stat lines, because you look at some of the other players in this Rookie of the Year race, whether it's Cade Cunningham, whether it's Jalen Green's not in the Rookie of the Year race, but even Josh Giddey or Scotty Barnes, like all these guys have been counted on a little more offensively. And the Cavs came into this season with a real mentality of sharing the responsibility, sharing the ball. And now that you don't really have a proven role man in Jared Allen, we need Evan Mobley to go out and do that. And to my pleasant surprise, he was actually setting some screens out there. He put his body on the guys. Didn't expect that.
How about that finish over Jackson, where he swung the ball down and just attacked, and just an absolute blow by on a set defender. He was not ready for that attack. Whew.
He was not. And the face-up game of Mobley is one of the things that's so exciting, because you can just see how that could be scalable in the future and something that he can really build upon, because with his vision as a passer and just his basketball instincts, if he becomes more potent as a face-up player, that is really going to open up a lot of opportunities for this Cavs offense. So I'm interested to see, can he sustain this? Can he go out there and, take on more offensive responsibility? Now, not every team is going to be Indiana without Miles Turner. You're going to run into some tougher matchups where that's not the case. I don't expect him to go out there and put up this kind of a stat line against Bam Adebayo on Friday, but you never know, right? Like you never know if someone's able to rise to the occasion and do to put in a performance that we're not necessarily expecting.
Justin, his passing in this game was bananas. Like full court lob to Dean Wade, hitting Lowry on a cut off the dribble. Like, it's just such elite decision making. I saw someone tweet. I can't. I didn't check the veracity of this one, but someone tweeted that he's at 53% from the field on post-up turnarounds.
Wow.
Like, those kind of shots are so indicative of his skill level. Because those are...
The 18-foot Kevin Garnett turnaround he hit in the fourth quarter was big time.
Yeah.
That's real... That's big-time stuff. And if he's able to build upon that when the Cavs actually get guys back, like moving forward, when you have Colin Sexton back, when you have LeVert back, when you have guys that can generate offense, if he's able to do that and be an option when the offense bogs down, that's huge. If he's able to do that, like assuming the Cavs go forward with a similar game flow to what they currently have, where he plays with Allen, but they stagger them. He plays about 15 minutes as the backup center. if he's able to kind of find his aggressiveness and find ways to be really assertive and move that forward to when he is playing with the second unit and he is that second unit center, that could make the Cavs really, really potent, because we know the starting lineup's probably going to be good moving forward. But if our backup minutes have just this unleashed Evan Mobley playing at the 5, that's going to give you 48 minutes of hell every time you play the Cavs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What I've really been excited to see with him these last 2 games is, quietly, he had kind of a pretty weak rebounding stretch as of late.
Yeah.
Against the Pacers on February 11th, he had one board in his 29 minutes, buddy. Against Charlotte, 5. Against Philly, 4. In the 2 games prior. Then he comes out, Allen's hurt, and you look at the 2 things where you go, what are they going to miss? They're going to miss screen setting. They're going to miss defensive rebounding. And he's come out, especially in against Toronto on the boards and Indy as a screener and a diver, really coming and taking on that challenge. It's been just really, really exciting to see him kind of like meet the moment. Both from, and even his shot attempts, like against Charlotte, he only had 9 attempts. Against Philly, he only had 7 attempts, 2 of 7. And then 2 straight games of 15 attempts on good efficiency. And he had 8 free throws in this one. So, like,
yeah,
you're just seeing him kind of fill the gaps. And, like, he is a guy who, he's not one of these. There's always been the Twitter darlings that are efficient, great defenders, that you go, okay, but, like, can they really do it at volume? I think there would be some anxiety if the Cavs hadn't had such a weird season of that with Mobley, because there are games where you just don't feel him when everyone's out there.
Yep.
At least, in terms of like the gaudy numbers, he's not a high volume player. That's you feel him on defense for sure. But so want to amend that point a little bit. But then they do have these stretches where they're missing bigs, and he just goes out and puts up 20 and 17 and 22 and 12, and you're like, yep, we're gonna be all right.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to need to continue playing pretty well, and I don't think you necessarily need 41 and 13 from Garland or 22 and 15 from Evan Mobley to go out there and win some of these games. Like, some of this was necessitated by the fact that they got basically nothing out of Jetty Osman. They got almost nothing out of Kevin Love. He had a couple moments.
Jetty had 0 points, so you could argue just about nothing.
Yeah. And Kevin Love had a really poor game as well, right? And I was getting into an argument in the middle of the third quarter when the Cavs were down 10, and it was the argument I've had and I've mentioned on the podcast of basically me insisting the Cavs have enough to win these games. Like, they don't have enough to win some of these games if they aren't getting anything from those 2 key bench contributors, especially when you're talking about the offensive burden that is on Mobley and Garland. You need Kevin Love and Jetty Osman to not be zeros in order to go out and actually be competitive in some of these games.
And furthermore, I also think, like, the reality is that their defensive focus was so poor in this game. They gave up 124, and Indy did not really have to work that hard to earn it. Dwayne Washington.
Third quarter was rough.
Dwayne Washington just got whatever he wanted.
I didn't put him in the show notes, but I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah,
that pain was real.
That dude's kind of good. I mean, I know the Cavs didn't play very well defensively, but he was pretty good. I think if they play, can they win without Darius and Evan having great games? Yes. Can they win if Love and Osman are off and they're playing unfocused defense? Probably not. But, like, that's why sometimes you just need your star to win you a game, and Darius won them. I think they can't let that be their standard. I hope that they watched tape in these 2 days off and kind of evaluated, like, hey, we probably shouldn't have won that game. But for the grace of Darius and come out a little bit more focused. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was the closing lineup, Justin, because it kind of worked for me, bro. It was Darius, Lamar, Isaac, Mobley, and Markkanen, I believe, were the 5.
Mm-hmm.
And something about I said Isaac.
It was Dean, Lamar,
Oh,
Okoro.
Was it Dean? It was Dean instead of Markkanen. That's what it was.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm sorry. And I thought that it was a really interesting lineup because, yes, you're playing a dude at the 2 and the 3 in Lamar and Isaac, neither of whom can really shoot. But you had the supplemental shooting of Dean Wade, Garland, and Mobley being a spacer and an active participant on the perimeter. That it just kind of, you had enough juice offensively because Darius was going so bananas. And like, they shut the Pacers' water off down the stretch.
Yeah, they really did. And what I love about it is you have 3 players that the Cavs drafted high in the last 3 drafts, closing for you, playing important roles. And then you have 2 undrafted players that the Cavs have developed throughout their system, giving you real, reliable minutes on a night where Kevin Love isn't contributing. Jetty Osman is having an off night. Rajon Rondo is having an off night, right? You have these 2 undrafted players playing alongside these guys that you invested real draft capital in and fitting in. Like, to me, that, and we've talked about how great it is to have Dean, to have Lamar be ready to step up and ready for the moment. But for them to be so functional and work so well alongside those guys in such a crucial moment, like to me, that's the type of stuff that as a fan I really latch on to and adore. And you're right. Like I think functionally that lineup works really well in certain situations. I think you might have to rely on
two defensively capable wings is really fun.
And honestly, you could probably make the argument for 3 because Dean Wade has been so good as an individual defender as well. He got that deflection at the end of the game. Lamar timed that game-saving block perfectly. Like you have 3 guys that are really capable as defensive players that just play smart basketball, that get out in transition. Lamar is a bulldog when he's driving the basket, and
he was awesome.
I think there's certain matchups. I think there's certain matchups where Lamar doesn't necessarily work. Like, I think when you put Lamar on someone like a Harden or a Maxey, someone that's really crafty and shifty, I think you see some limitations there where he's better defending wings and forwards rather than the guys that can really kind of fake him, get him to bite on something and draw a foul. Like, I think those are the situations where he struggles. But on a night like that night against Indiana, he is more than ready to help out in those situations. And I do think, assuming Jared Allen continues to be out for a while, which we still don't have a timeline on that, which leads me to believe he's probably going to be out for the majority of March, if not all of it, you're going to need other guys to contribute defensively in other areas. And Lamar Stevens is a prime candidate to do that.
Yeah, him and Wade, they're just such awesome players, and it's so fun to get to root for both of them and kind of see, especially, again, like we've said this on the pod before, but like with Lamar, after that Lakers game, that just traumatic Lakers game where he biffed like 6 layups, like fouled a 3-point shooter, like just had as bad of a game as you can have in as high a profile a spot as the Cavs had at that point of their season. No one would have blamed JB for just saying, okay, you could just be our practice guy. You can be our good energy guy. And he really clearly has a lot of belief in Lamar and stuck with him. And I think Lamar has been, the difference between a Lamar who has somehow turned himself into a very, very helpful player for this team when he's needed, and like, just some bargain basement player that, some random other replacement off the streets player has been meaningful. Like they probably won a game that maybe they would have lost. That's really cool.
You don't win a lot of games in today's NBA when you shoot 9 of 32 from the 3-point line, especially when your opponent shoots 16 of 32, right? Like those are sometimes the math games that it just catches up to you. And the Cavs have survived that on many occasions this season, going out there and playing good defense. This was one of those nights where they didn't play consistently good defense. And that's something that JB Bickerstaff has talked about, that this young team needs to learn how to give consistent 48 minutes of effort over an 82-game season. And that's part of the learning process. I think some of the reasons why they were able to steal that outside of the great individual performances in that fourth quarter defense was they only had 8 turnovers. Compared to 18 for Indiana. That hasn't always been the case for them. They shot their free throws well, shooting 24 of 27 from the free throw line. How many games have they lost this season because they just didn't hit their free throws? Obviously, the free throws may come and go depending who the shooters are. You're not always getting Garland going to the line 9 times or shooting 9 free throws. But I do think taking care of the basketball, limiting turnovers is important, especially for someone like Evan Mobley, who, sometimes brings the ball down and exposes it. For him to have 22 points and 0 turnovers, like that's one of those aspects of his game that we didn't discuss, but that's just ridiculous. And I've got a fun stat for you, Carter, just to keep in perspective of how good and how young this team is. Darius Garland is 4 weeks older than Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh my gosh.
That's fun.
Wild.
That is fun. Want to have a sad fact now? I got a sad fact for you now. I'm doing the fact sandwich right here.
I don't, but okay.
So, with Karis LeVert out against the Miami Heat on Friday, which was just announced prior to us recording on this podcast, this is the longest stretch of missed games LeVert has had since 2019, if you're not counting when he was out for his cancer scare there. This is the most extended period of time that he's had since 2019 out with an injury. And I have to assume with him being ruled out a day before the Miami game, that he's probably not going to play Saturday. Maybe he'll be back on Monday against the Clippers at home. He did take part in practice today, but that ankle injury does appear to be lingering a little bit, which is frustrating. What's that?
Foot, I believe. It's a foot sprain, right?
Ankle's part of the foot. Don't you do this to me.
Oh my God. It's not part of the foot, to be very clear.
But we do not have reinforcements coming in with Karis LeVert, but we do have a very interesting one coming in at the center position, Carter. Moses Brown. I'm jacked about this. I think this is one of the more fun options. You look at the free agent market for centers of who's available, and you got guys like Willie Cauley-Stein, which I think was an option both you and I had some interest in. Greg Monroe, known commodity, but not necessarily the most stout defender on the planet. But Moses Brown, as a 22-year-old, that's very raw. Let's be honest about that. But an intriguing player that is not even a year removed from having a 2020 game with OKC.
Yes, Dan. I'm gonna peel back the curtain for the chat. I was getting ready to pull up some Moses Brown highlights on YouTube, and one of the top videos is Toronto family. Cleveland got Moses Brown, SMFH. So NBA Chev is salty that Mr. Brown didn't go to the Raptors. I guess
handed the Raptors 2 L's in 1 week. How about that?
How about it?
I don't know if that counts towards the play-in race, but Moses Brown is an interesting player. Like, I think for Cavs fans, if you only watch Cavs games, the one exposure you had was the Cavs really
Jared Allen ruining his life.
Jared Allen ruining his damn life in that game against Dallas this season. I think one of the flaws with Moses Brown is he's someone that is a good shot blocker, but he leaves his feet a lot. He will bite on pump fakes. He wants to go out there and be active. It's in a lot of ways there you could compare him to a young JaVale McGee, being a 7'2" player, a big body, someone that's very active and athletic, but doesn't necessarily have kind of the sense and the kind of the winning mentality that McGee developed later in his career.
Yeah, I did a little homework on this guy because I'm a professional. And turns out he was on one of the best high school teams in the country with Cole Anthony back in the day. And he went to UCLA and just kind of wasn't there, kind of wasn't an impact player. Came in with some legit pedigree, went into the draft when everyone was like, maybe you shouldn't go into the draft there, Moses, and ended up going undrafted and has kind of bounced around a little. I remember after Toronto kind of just OKC let him go and shipped him off to Boston. And then he got rerouted to Dallas this offseason. There were some people on Twitter like, what are you doing, OKC? Like, you only got isn't this the kind of guy you want on the team? Like these project bigs who show flashes. So he had a pretty good run in OKC, was basically invisible in Dallas before getting let go. Can you kind of I see in our pod notes you have some kind of statistical breakdowns. You want to dive into those?
I do. So in OKC, 18% of his possessions came as a roll man. He was in the 66th percentile. Not great, but there's a little bit of Andre Drummond to him too, where he'll miss a shot and continue to get the offensive rebound and keep tipping the ball away until he finally finishes. Do you want to take a guess on how many possessions he got in Dallas as the roll man, Carter?
I already saw the notes, so I don't want to cheat, Justin.
You know what? I thought I didn't even put it in the show notes, but I appreciate your honesty. I couldn't find what percentage of his possessions he played as the roll man in Dallas, because he didn't even have 10 possessions as the roll man in Dallas, which was the minimum for him to appear in that statistic. So when you're looking at it, this is a guy that Dallas didn't use as a roll man. They didn't use him in post-ups, and it was just kind of like a dump-off guy, someone that'll set screens for Luka or Jalen Brunson, and they're going to go generate their own offense or kick it out to a shooter. That's the way that Dallas's offense works. I do think that there's an opportunity for him, as being kind of an explosive player as a roll man, to maybe get some opportunities with the Cavs in the second unit. This is one of those interesting situations where I'm not counting on Moses Brown to bring a lot of productivity or to stick around with the Cavs, because he's on a 10-day contract, and I'm not going to lose my mind over a 10-day player until I actually see them go out there and be productive. But there's reason to believe that someone that is good as a shot blocker and as a roll man could play well with the Cavs. And this is one of those situations similar to with Evan Mobley having a chance to step up statistically with Jared Allen being out of the lineup. This is a chance for the Cavs to take a look at a very athletic 7-2 player that in theory fits their system. And if it works out, they do have an open roster spot, which they could either give to Brandon Goodwin and move Moses Brown to a two-way contract or vice versa. They have an opportunity to at least take a look at a talented, young, raw big man that could at least be a system fit within the Cavs.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it is, they could have just gotten, a journeyman big to eat some minutes, another version of an Ed Davis, or they could take a shot, at a young guy who can be a good practice player for them. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some minutes in this upcoming stretch, just because of the bigs they have to play against. And, this is, I think you have the right mentality where if you're the Cavs, you're like, hey, maybe he'll eat some minutes here and there. And if he shows some signs, sure, maybe we found our fifth or sixth big on the roster. And if you're Moses Brown, I hope the mentality is, I think I'm a player in the league. I had a stretch in Dallas that was so forgettable that those are the kind of stretches that can kind of end a career, Yeah. We think about dudes falling out of the league because they had some major mistakes or problems, but a lot of times it's just they were invisible for too long, for too many stops. Mm-hmm. So if you're Moses Brown, you go, okay, how can I make an impression? Can I go into Philly and block Embiid a couple times? Can I operate the dunker spot and make some great finishes? Can I show some chemistry with Evan Mobley and just try to find whatever it is that makes the Cavs go, maybe we keep this guy around.
The Philly matchup is one where I don't think Moses Brown is going to be that effective, because he is someone.
I'll bet they throw him out to eat some fouls.
They might, but I just don't expect him to necessarily have a good performance.
I don't either. I'm saying if you're him, you're trying to find a play or two to make an impression.
Right, and that's a similar situation to what the Cavs had last year in bringing in Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Where this is a guy that didn't really get a lot of opportunities in Denver, bad kind of system fit, and playing alongside Darius Garland, and being that kind of pick and roll partner got him opportunities. And I think actually even having Rondo in the second unit is going to be very good for him, because Rondo is a coach out there on the floor that's going to tell him, no, you need to go there. Like, he's going to be telling him exactly where to go, trying to teach him how to be in open spaces, to be available for the pass. I think that could be something that's really beneficial for him. And I would actually play him probably over Ed Davis, even if Ed Davis is a more reliable option right now, just because, as unfortunate as it is, the Cavs are in a situation where enough guys are out of the lineup where we're probably going to be taking some losses here, and let's give some developmental reps. Let's take a look at a player like Moses Brown that is capable of going out there and playing really well, and he contributes in ways that are helpful. Like, he is 10th in the NBA out of players that have played at least 100 minutes in contested rebound percentage. He rebounds a higher percentage, I think like 6% higher than Jared Allen, who's leading the Cavs. So they've needed someone that can go out there and get rebounds, be aggressive, create opportunities. If the second unit stalls out, he's someone that can go out and get an offensive rebound and generate another opportunity. Even if there's more variance in what he's bringing to the table, where there's the very good plays and the very bad plays, I think this is a team that kind of needs some variance, that they need someone that can bring some juice to these lineups. And I think it's at least worth checking him out to see what he can bring to the table. I mean, even from a rim protection standpoint, like, he's 7'2", he's massive. His defensive field goal percentage at the rim is 53.5. That's better than 54.7 for Mobley. Not as good as Allen at 50.9, but, having another center that can go out there, make things difficult at the rim. I mean, we saw a lot of occasions in that Indiana game where, yes, the defensive effort overall wasn't good, but especially with Mobley off the floor, there just wasn't really that rim deterrence. And I think he can provide at least some of that, especially against the lesser teams that the Cavs play over these last 17 games.
I think that JB kind of said it right, where he said he kind of, he's tall, pretty good athlete, pretty good rim protector, fits our profile of team. Like, you can conceivably run some similar sets with him at the 5 and Evan at the 4. You can run similar. You can run similar defense. And there's just an easier road to getting there. Do I really care if he plays over Ed Davis or not? I don't think so. I think JB will do what he feels comfortable with. He'll read the room, especially like if the game's out of hand, sure, why not throw Moses in? But ultimately, I just think it's a good flyer to take. And selfishly, just as a fan, it's a more fun flyer to take. Like, he might. Yeah. There is a 3% chance he hits and is a guy where we go, oh, well, let's keep him for the next couple years. Now, that chance is not super high. I don't think that you bounce around like he has. If you're so great, we've learned so much that the NBA is about opportunity and about environment and
situation.
And the Cavs have an environment that if you're a rim protecting big who can just finish around the basket, things can go like it's pretty well set up for you. So let's see what happens.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend I was watching a lot of OKC games last year, or that I was watching a lot of Dallas games this year. Even I'm not someone that's watching a ton of Moses Brown. What I will say is, like, the impression I get is he's similar to other big athletic 7-footers where, it really comes down to, do they embrace their role? Is he willing to do the little things to stick to what he does well and not try to branch out, like Marvin Bagley in Sacramento trying to play small forward and doing things that are kind of outside of his wheelhouse? And the Cavs are in a good position where he was cut from Dallas because they took multiple players back in the Porzingis deal and they needed to create the roster space. I'm sure that's a humbling situation for him. And JB hasn't been shy of benching guys when they're not contributing and they're not doing the right things. I mean, even Jetty and Love had their minutes cut in the Indiana game because they weren't playing well. He's in a situation where
Dylan's just stuck in the G League right now.
Oh my God, yeah. He's actually, go listen to Locked On Cavs from earlier this week. They were talking about kind of the intent of having Dylan in the G League and what the goals are with his time with the Charge. I actually thought that was a really interesting conversation. I'm glad you brought that up because that deserved a shout out. But I mean, Brown is in a situation now where if he's not doing the little things, if he's not sticking to the specific role and the strengths that he has, JB can bench him for Ed Davis. Ed Davis has given them good minutes. He's on a 10-day contract. If he's not working out, they could waive him and bring in another center, whether it is Willie Cauley-Stein or even bringing back Taco Fall or some other option. Like this is really kind of a make or break opportunity for him and a good situation. So you hope that he embraces it, but I'm not really going to count on him being a significant part of what's going on until he goes out there and shows it. So it'll be really interesting. I just think that this is a good opportunity for him because I do think that there's a fit playing alongside Garland and Rondo. It's not a big change from what they already run. Like he fit in very, very well alongside some really intelligent players and good passers. So hopefully he can take advantage of the opportunities because the Cavs most certainly have room for someone that can do what he can bring to the table.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to see him out there, and if he can earn, I certainly will be perking up when he takes the floor.
Oh, me too. How are you feeling about these weekend games before we wrap this thing up? My nerves are high. I would love to be able to steal one of these games against Miami and Chicago. I hate that Chicago is off since Wednesday, and we're going to be playing them on a back-to-back. That's Miami.
I hate that we have to go in and win. I hate that we have 2 games off in Miami, or 2 days off in Miami. On JB Bickerstaff's birthday. My goodness, the South Beach flu, if there's ever a time for it to hit, Justin, it's right now. What are they doing?
JB deserves a birthday drink or two.
He absolutely does. And when I say they, I mean the scheduling committee. This is a young team. Be respectful.
Man, I mean, Miami's a tough team to play. I saw that they rested Jimmy Butler in their last game because they were looking forward to this Cavs matchup, and then they're taking this one seriously. That's the way I'm going to spin this.
That's probably why.
But, I would love to be able to steal one of these games, especially the one against Chicago.
If they steal one of the games, it's a winner of a weekend as far as I'm concerned.
In my opinion, they need to win one of these next 3 games against Miami, Chicago, and LA.
In order to
keep in pace for securing that at least the 6th seed, because you look at what Toronto's going through right now, and they have a West Coast trip. They're playing, I believe,
I'm pulling it up at Phoenix, at Denver, at Lakers, at Clippers are the next 4.
Yeah, so that's a tough stretch for them. Clippers, even though it's going to be the Cavs' 3rd game in 4 nights, it's also going to be the same situation for the Clippers, only playing on a back-to-back. We said it on the last podcast. I think the Cavs needed to go 9-9 to get to kind of the 46 win plateau. I think that keeps them comfortably out of the play-in tournament. So after banking that win against Indiana, just get one of these next 3 games, and I think you're in pretty good shape. So fingers crossed there. But
I know this is stupid, but I feel like if they can win 2 out of the 3, I'm back to dreaming 5 seed dreams.
Well, especially if they beat Chicago, because if they beat Chicago, you're basically within a half game of them.
Oh, come on, Detroit. How could you blow that one? I was so ready to be so hyped for this weekend's Chicago game.
It was a great game. I watched that down the stretch in the 4th quarter. Chicago basically made a point of having DeMar DeRozan attack Cade Cunningham and forcing switches onto Cade and just doing DeMar DeRozan things, which you don't see teams doing that to Evan Mobley. Just going to point that out. I don't think anyone has ever tried to force a switch on Evan Mobley to get a bucket in the 4th quarter.
They've tried.
Something
to keep
an eye on. They tried, and they've stopped trying. I think there's enough film out there. So I'm excited to see if the Cavs can rise to the occasion. I think there's a lot of guys that are kind of, late in a season, there's opportunity to be had. Whether it's Evan Mobley stepping up with Jared Allen out, whether it's Garland stepping up with Karis LeVert still out, Moses Brown trying to earn a spot in the NBA. I think that's an environment that gets a team hungry, and hopefully they're able to steal one of these games. We will be back on Sunday to recap this tough back-to-back that the Cavs are going through. Hopefully we have a win. I'm still not confident, but, fingers crossed there. Carter, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Go Cavs. Go Cavs.
Go Cavs. I agree. Go Cavs. On Austin Carr's birthday, I think we needed to give that shout out as well. So big thanks to all our listeners. The biggest shout out always goes to you guys, especially those tuning in live on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast, leave a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of the Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of that review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you guys choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there, and until next time, go Cavs.